Hey guys, Jose here with another episode 10 of the ForgeServ Let's Play. Today I'm going to go ahead and grab a crafter and an importer, and I want to get some cool stuff started. So I want to get started with some Mekanism Advanced Solar Generator Auto Crafting. First of all, I realized here though that there's not everything that I have in refined storage that's auto crafted. For example, exporters and a few other miscellaneous things. So I want to get a few of these other things kind of crafted or auto craftable and organized because it looks like this top one is full, and I figured kind of be nice to keep things nice and categorized. So go ahead and get all the cable and cable-like stuff all together. So I think that's pretty much it for the most part. And so now I'm going to run upstairs, and I want to grab our enrichment chamber. No, not enrichment chamber. Metallurgic infuser. Sorry. So the metallurgic infuser has mine here has both maxed out 8 speed upgrades and 8 energy upgrades. And so I'm going to go ahead and pick it up. It'll keep those upgrades retained inside of it because we want to use it to set up some auto crafting today. I want to get a lot of the alloys and stuff kind of set up and ready to go. That way we can have pretty easy crafting for this. So you can see I've already cleared out a space here for the crafter. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by setting this stuff up. Now I discovered, because of the fact that the enrichment chamber cannot take the same slot input from two sides, or two slots from the same one side, I had to actually use a chest and some Ender IO item conduits to kind of resolve this issue. So I'll go ahead and give this a try, get the importer set up, and get one of our recipes encoded here with the enriched alloy. That's kind of the most important one that needs to be auto-crafted for the solar panels. But I'll go ahead and toss this into the crafter, but as you'll see in just a minute, it doesn't end up actually working. I tried it off camera and on camera, both. I clipped it out of the video footage here. But as soon as I started, it actually puts just one input in. So we're going to do the chest method here instead. We'll put the inputs into there, grab some ingredients here so that we can tell it what to pull through from which sides, because the coal and redstone, there aren't any recipes that use coal and redstone as the main item. They only use them as the sort of infusing item, if you will. It's kind of hard to explain. So we'll set up an item filter here and go ahead and get that filtered out. That way we don't end up with any issues where things don't go in the right slot that they need to. So for this one, we'll whitelist and extract without signal in just a minute once we get the whitelist set up. We'll whitelist extraction of redstone and coal. And for this one, we will blacklist it. We'll do the same thing, though, for redstone and coal. And set that up as a blacklist with no signal. So now if we put this in, as soon as I set up the sides at least. So we're going to set up the bottom to be input for red, which is the main item input. And the back is going to be input for, I believe it's purple, for the infusing item. And then we'll do the top as the output. So now if I have it auto-crafted, just going to throw in an iron. And this is, I actually forgot to set this this blacklisted conduit. I forgot to set the other end of it to input. So let's fix that real quick. Insert. And there you go, you see it just crafted. So we'll go ahead and get the steel set up as well. Steel isn't required for any of this, but it's nice to have it on hand. It's the easier method of getting it rather than IC2. We'll go ahead and set up the smelting recipe for that as well. And I want to get the sag mill recipe for osmium dust set up, because that's going to be important for making the solar panels. So at this point, let's go ahead and start the crafting and setting up of all of this. So we already know the alloys, so we need to teach it how to make glass panes, and I'm just going to teach it how to make glass as well. I think it already knows how. No, okay, so we'll do glass real quick as well. That way it knows in the future. We have quite a bit of it right now, but we'll go ahead and teach the system how to make glass panes. And then we'll also need to teach it a few other things, and so on camera I didn't show it, but there's actually a bit of an issue that I experienced with auto crafting setup that you guys may as well. Using JEI to shift click the recipes for items that have damage or durability or energy storage did not work for me. I would set it up, but then as soon as it was successfully there and would start crafting, it wouldn't be able to use it for other recipes. I had to fix this by actually crafting one of the output item and manually putting it into the recipe pattern. So now that we know how to do all of the crafting for glass panes, we'll get the solar panels crafted. Here's where mistake number one or not mistake number one, but the energy tablet was one of the items that gave me a hard time. So in this recipe, when you do it, craft an energy tablet and put the energy tablet in that recipe by hand. This was another part that I had an issue with, was with the solar panels. Do the same thing. Craft the solar panels by hand, or at least one, and put it in the 4 slots for the solar panels there. I did this off camera because it wasn't really a very big deal, but we'll go ahead and put these all in here, kind of relatively organized at least. So we'll put the energy tablet maybe somewhere over there, and do the solar panel, solar generator, and the advanced solar generator. So now if I type up the advanced, you can see I cut here because I decided to fix that. But now that I fixed it, the solar generator auto-crafted, and we're going to craft an extra panel item. That way I can put it here as the display item for the crafter. So I wanted to use this other one real quick over in the village. The aversion obelisk is using a little bit more power than we get sometimes, so a second one of these advanced solar generators will be all we need to make sure that the capacitor bank can fill up for the nighttime. But now I want to get into some extra utilities, so let's go ahead and craft up some stone burnt using polished stone and a resonator. I don't have any other real good means of generating stone burnt right now, or I'm sorry, grid power, so I'm just going to go ahead and use this manual mill to get what I need to get going. Because I want to use water mills in a way that's pretty powerful to get us some power. So we'll go ahead and craft up a few of these. I end up crafting a lot of them off camera as well, just because it's kind of a tedious process, but I taught redstone gears to the system, so that's pretty helpful. And this is sort of like a speed, I'm going to do a speed run here of sort of the design process, because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to go with. I wanted to use temple blocks because they're a very nice watery blue, and I kind of felt it was fitting for a water mill. But then I realized, some darkness from the dark oak would be a really good offset for this. It would be a really nice way of making sure that it wasn't just kind of washed out looking. And so I tossed down a lot of dark oak logs. Just a reminder, this is on a server, even though I say ForgeServ all the time, and there's not always looks like there's people on. Sometimes there is, and so Josh was on at this time, and he slept for me, which was nice of him. He's also my roommate now, so that's pretty cool. So, let's see, get these logs up, and I decided to go through with some interesting design here. I wasn't really sure what variants of blocks I wanted, so I had a hard time picking them, but I like how it turned out in the end. I used the ornate steel glass for the for each one of these floors. And this entire building here actually ends up only being for grid power generation. It doesn't actually use it for anything in this building. I'm considering adding a few other little amenities to it to make it so that it maybe has a few grid power generating rooms. But yeah, so this is the design I want to do. I want each room to be a 5x5 with four of these water mills in each one. And I've actually gone through off camera after building each one of these floors. I discovered that if I put a water source block in the corners, the flowing level is actually even higher for the. I didn't realize that the flowing level of water was what determined how much grid power was made, but since it's higher, I went ahead since the flowing if the distance from the original source block, the further away you are from it, the lower grid power you make. So in other words, you have the original block, and then if one block away from it is flowing water, of course, and you put down your water gen there, you're producing the maximum amount of power. So I didn't know this until I went through and played around with these a little bit. So I, off camera, went through and basically adjusted for that and made the 4 corners of each one of these layers also have a water source block, maximizing each one of the water mills to produce 16 grid power at all times. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do for these side walls, but I kind of decided that the temple blocks were good enough for the floors. I kind of feel like they're doing a pretty darn good job as the floor. You can still see them, so I'm just going to stick with cobblestone. I don't know why. We have a chisel, but I still like to stick with vanilla textures sometimes. The chisel ones are absolutely fantastic, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it just feels right. Go ahead and stick a light source in the middle of each one of these floors as well. It'll light it up very nicely. Not that light level actually matters, but I just like to keep things nice and light. Make sure everything is going just fine. So I don't actually have any use for all of this grid power. That's what's funny. This entire setup ends up making a little over 300 GP. And I don't know what to use it for, so if you want to leave any suggestions in the comments, please feel free. The one thing that I don't particularly want to use it for, that I know other people have used it for, I'm looking at you, Booty Toast. I do know that a lot of people are using the extra utilities machines. I don't really like them, and there's several reasons why, aside from the fact that they use grid power and RF. But they're a little funky. So I'm just gonna kind of avoid using those, but if you have any other suggestions for things I could use them for, I was really wanting to use flood lamps, but then I discovered that they haven't been re-added yet, which, you know, that's understandable, to be honest. They used a lot of ASM and hacky code, so I can kind of understand that. So I'll go ahead and fill in this one as well. I do not, however, have a convenient place water spell, so I am doing it the old-fashioned way. And filling in the other rooms with each one of these rooms with 4 extra water sources was not fun either. But I'm just too lazy to make another spell for my CAD. So that's kind of how we're looking right now. I'll add another few floors, and then we'll take a glance at the end product. Alright, so here it is, with a few more floors added and a roof. The roof is a little hollow. We'll end up using that hollow space for something later on, as you may find out soon enough. You know, I really like how this turned out. I think it turned out pretty good, and as you can see, we're producing 330 grid power. It says I'm using 2. I don't know where I'm using 2. I have no idea, so we'll see. But I hope you enjoyed the episode, and take care.